Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well today. It's been a very, very busy news day. And the two stories that I want to deal with, some of you have been following my social media posts on Facebook and on Instagram as well, the African History Network on Facebook, and Michael Imhotep on Instagram, as well as YouTube. I posted an article this morning dealing with Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi Goldberg on The View made some comments about the Holocaust during World War II. The Holocaust against 6 million Jews, but there were also Polish killed, and there were Afro-Germans killed as well. And she talked about, she made statements saying the Holocaust was not about race, it was about inhumanity against man. Well, we got the news this morning. It's a big article from the Daily Beast, thedailybeast.com, that I posted on our The African History Network, and it got over 400 comments. Last time I checked, it got something like 800 likes, something like that, but it got over 400 comments, and I was talking to some of the people commenting, and a lot of African Americans are upset that she was suspended for 2 weeks. Now, this is, keep in mind, the suspension took place after she apologized on the air. So she made these statements. She made the statements on Monday on The View, and Monday, which was January 31st, Monday, January 31st. Then there was backlash to those statements on Tuesday on The View. She publicly apologized. And this is a nuanced understanding. We're going to get into this deep history lesson. Okay, it's a nuanced understanding to understanding the Holocaust. Now, we know the International Remembrance of the Holocaust was January 27th, and we dealt with some of this history on the show back on January 27th, and we talked about some of the Afro-Germans that Hitler was killing as well. Okay, now, yes, it was a lot more Jews. Okay, but oftentimes when these conversations about the Holocaust take place, the Afro-Germans that were being killed are left out. I was listening to Reverend Al Sharpton's show today, keeping it real, right here on 910 AM, the Superstation WFDF, and he said if blacks had been over there, we would have been killed too by Hitler. We were killed by Hitler, and he was doing experiments on us. Okay, this gets left out of the conversation. So Whoopi Goldberg apologized on Tuesday, and then we got the news this morning that she was suspended for 2 weeks. There's a big article from the Daily Beast that deals with how a lot of her co-panelists are upset. The View co-hosts furious at ABC for suspending Whoopi. And there are a lot of African Americans who are upset as well. So we're going to deal with this today and deal with some history as well. Talk some more about some of the history of the Holocaust, deal with some of the history that gets left out, because there were Afro-Germans that were being killed. And one of the problems is that African Americans, we don't know our own history. So when this conversation comes up, we don't know to talk about the Afro-Germans that were killed. There was approximately 25,000 to 50,000 Afro-Germans that were killed. And even when I hear people, like International Day of Remembrance of the Holocaust, we shared one article from the Associated Press. This is a good example. We shared one article from the Associated Press that talked about the International Holocaust Remembrance Day, and there was not one word in there about the Afro-Germans that Hitler killed. Okay, not one word, and I'm gonna pull this up. I want you to read this article. Okay, and now without dispute, yes, there was a lot more Jews that were killed than Afro-Germans. But how's it the Afro-Germans don't even get talked about? It's not even, usually it's not even a footnote about them. So I want to pull up this this other article. World remembers Holocaust. World remembers Holocaust as anti-Semitism rises in pandemic. okay, as anti-Semitism rises in pandemic. Now, this is from the Associated Press. And on the 27th, we talked about this story here. And let me see if we could pull this up. This is from apnews.com, because I want you to read it and see how we get left out of this history. And one of the things that there was a article I was looking at shortly before coming on the air here, is that you have a lot of fans of The View who are upset with the ABC News president, Kim Godwin, suspending Whoopi Goldberg for 2 weeks. And she said that, some of this, I was trying not to get pissed off today. Just be honest with you. Just to be perfectly honest with you. When I was reading this was one of the first things I read this morning, this article. I should not have done it because I've been mad all day. While Whoopi has apologized, I've asked her to take time to reflect and learn about the impact of her comments. It's like she's treating Whoopi Goldberg like a child that you put in time out. Well, read this article here from the Associated Press. World remembers Holocaust as anti-Semitism rises in pandemic. Now, we talked about this article here on January 27th, which was the International Holocaust Remembrance Day. We dealt with all that. And like I said before, I have no problem with talking about the Holocaust. When we talk about the Holocaust, you need to talk about the Afro-Germans that Hitler was killing as well. Now, when you read, I want everybody to read this article. We don't have time to go through a lot of it here, but read this article. When you go through and read this article, they don't say anything about the black people Hitler was killing. Now, once again, Hitler was killing more than just Jews. Okay, this is why we have to study all this history. All right, he was killing more than just Jews. He was killing more than people in Germany. He was killing them in Poland and France, things like this. And it goes through, okay, about 6 million Jews, about 6 million Jews, and millions of other people were killed by the Nazis and their collaborators. Some 1.5 million children were killed. I don't have a problem. We can talk about all that. We can talk about all the victims. That's fine. But now, in this article, not one word about the Afro-Germans that Hitler was killing. How the hell is that possible? But when you don't know your history, you can't raise these issues and say, hold on, wait a second. How's it you have all this and you don't even mention the black people Hitler was killing? So we're going to talk about this on today's show. We're going to get deep into this because you have the View co-host at the Furious at ABC, at ABC News President Kimberly Godwin for suspending Whoopi Goldberg for 2 weeks. But then also we're going to talk about some of the Afro-Germans Hitler was killing as well. There was a piece that I posted today from TheGuardian.com, and I sent The Guardian a donation as well because I read so many of their articles. I said, okay, they came up with that little message. Please donate to us. It said you've read 17 articles from The Guardian this year. Please donate to us. So I sent them a few dollars. Okay. So all right. If you like this, we're coming up on a break. If you like the type of information that we share, also you can support the African History Network. $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. And we're six days a week. We're coming up on the break. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by, back from break in 4 minutes. Wait, hold on. Did we drop a call? I guess we dropped a call. Hold on. Either that or they hung up on me. Let me see. Hold on. Stand by. We got disconnected radio station. Stand by. Yeah, it's Michael. We got. I dropped the Skype. Dropped the call. All right, Shakita coming in. Oh, okay, that's cool. I know it's snowing outside. I know it's bad outside. So yeah, that's cool. Stand by. All right, man. Okay. Okay, I'm about to email this information too. All right, stand by, everybody. Back from break in 1 minute. Stand by. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well. Calling numbers 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. We dropped the call right before the break, so it cut out on me. I'm calling into the radio station through Skype, so just bear with us here. Calling number 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. So we're talking about Whoopi Goldberg on The View, the anchor on The View. I think she's been on The View since 2007, something like that. But she's been on The View since 2007. She was suspended. It was announced this morning, suspended for 2 weeks for basically saying that the Holocaust of 6 million Jews during World War II by the Nazis, the Holocaust was not about race, but it was about man's inhumanity to man. Now, we're going to get into some of this history because it was about race, but it's different than the concept that we think of American racism, which is largely white against African American. No, it is different than that. Okay, and this requires a deeper understanding of the Holocaust. And she also went on Steve Colbert's show as well after The View and explained herself some more. And I understand what she was saying. She just didn't know. Okay, she didn't mean anything malicious by it. She wasn't attacking anybody. She wasn't calling any names. And Shakita, cue clip number 1 up. I just sent that to you. Cue clip number 1 up from Good Morning America, please. She didn't mean anything malicious by it or anything like that. She just didn't know. But a lot of Americans are unaware of history, ignorant of history, and there's a declining awareness when it comes to the Holocaust and the history of the Holocaust as well. Okay. All right. So we'll go to clip 1 in just a second here. So here's what happened for those that don't know. Whoopi Goldberg was suspended from The View for 2 weeks over her Monday remarks about the Holocaust, and most of her co-hosts are furious with the network, sources told the Daily Beast. Now, Kimberly Godwin, who's the ABC News president, said in a note to staff on Tuesday evening, we got the word basically late Tuesday night, early this morning, because I think I saw something last night before I went. Well, I can't remember what time I went to bed. I went to bed 3 a.m. I went to bed at 3 o'clock this morning. So I saw something before I went to bed. Effectively, immediately, I am suspending Whoopi Goldberg for 2 weeks for her wrong and hurtful comments. Quote, while Whoopi has apologized, I have asked her to take time to reflect and learn about the impact of her comments. Now, Kim Godwin went on to say in the statement, the entire ABC News organization stands in solidarity with our Jewish colleagues, friends, family, and communities. I'm not sure how she knows that. Did she take a poll? I'm not sure how she knows that, 1. But 2, Whoopi Goldberg stands with the Jewish community as well. She was just unaware. She wasn't trying to hurt anybody's feelings or anything like that. She was just unaware of the history. Now, Kim Godwin, ABC News president, further said that, quote, these decisions are never easy but necessary. While Whoopi Goldberg's comments, quote unquote, do not align with the values or culture of ABC News, she added, quote, it was important that the View host had a chance to address her remarks on Tuesday's broadcast, quote, and have an educational conversation with Anti-Defamation League CEO Jonathan Greenblatt. Now, did you have anybody on the show to talk about the African-American perspective or the African perspective when it dealt with the Jewish Holocaust or deal with the Holocaust in general and the Afro-Germans that Hitler was killing? Did you? The show is called The View, right? So whose view is it? Is it just your view? I mean, Jonathan Greenblatt, he shed some good history dealing with the Holocaust, but who was there to talk about the Africans that Hitler was killing? Who was there to talk about the fact that the Nuremberg Laws, and we dealt with this here on this show. This is why I was to support this show, okay? Because it takes a lot of work to put this show together. And as I've said before, I don't get paid from the radio station to do this show, so it takes a lot of resources to do this. Who is talking about the fact that the Nuremberg Laws that Hitler instituted against the Jews, he studied the segregation laws that the U.S. had against African Americans to come up with the Nuremberg Laws. We talked about this on January 27th on the International Day of Remembrance of the Holocaust. History.com has a good article, and when I teach my classes dealing with from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968, we deal with this in the class. I'm going to pull this up here from, you know what we'll do? We're going to go to clip one first. Let's go to clip one from Good Morning America. This is what happened, and then we're going to get into some of these articles and deal with some of this history. Let's go to clip one, Shakita.
The View co-host Whoopi Goldberg suspended for 2 weeks for her comments about the Holocaust. Ariel Reshef has the story. Good morning, Ariel.
Good morning to you, George. Though Goldberg has apologized, her comments sparked a firestorm, some seeing this as a troubling sign of fading understanding about the horrors of the Holocaust. This morning, ABC News suspending Whoopi Goldberg for 2 weeks in response to her inflammatory remarks about the Holocaust. ABC News President Kim Godwin saying in a statement, effective immediately, I am suspending Whoopi Goldberg for 2 weeks for her wrong and hurtful comments. While Whoopi has apologized, I've asked her to take time to reflect and learn about the impact of her comments. The entire ABC News organization stands in solidarity with our Jewish colleagues, friends, family, and communities.
If you're going to do this, then let's be truthful about it, because the Holocaust isn't about race.
On Monday's show, the host of ABC's The View inaccurately claimed the Holocaust was not related to race.
It's not about race. It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man. That's what it's about. Whoopi Goldberg.
Goldberg appearing to double down on the Colbert Show that night.
The American experience tends to be based on skin.
Yes. And so that is what race means to me. Mm-hmm. When you talk about being a racist, I was saying you can't call this racism. This was evil. Mm-hmm. This wasn't based on the skin. You couldn't tell who was Jewish. Mm-hmm. They had to delve deeply to figure it out.
Then tweeting an apology, saying in part, the Jewish people around the world have always had my support, and that will never waver. I'm sorry for the hurt I have caused. And the next day, opening The View with this.
I said that the Holocaust wasn't about race, and it was instead about man's inhumanity to man. But it is indeed about race, because Hitler and the Nazis considered Jews to be an inferior race. Now, words matter, and mine are no exception. I regret my comments, as I said, and I stand corrected. I also stand with the Jewish people, as they know, and y'all know, because I've always done that.
By the end of the Holocaust, just 77 years ago, 6 million Jews had been murdered.
That might not fit exactly or feel different than the way we think about race in 21st century America, where primarily it's about people of color. But throughout the Jewish people's history, they have been marginalized, they have been persecuted, they have been slaughtered, in large part because many people felt they were not just a different religion, but indeed a different race.
The head of the Anti-Defamation League warning anti-Semitism is still a real and present danger.
We need people on good faith on the left and the right to call this out forcefully, fully, without hesitation.
And studies show an alarming decline in knowledge about the Holocaust at a time when anti-Semitism has surged to unprecedented levels. The FBI saying Jews are the most targeted for religious-based hate crimes in this country. And George, as you heard there, Goldberg saying she regrets her comments and any hurt they may have caused.
Yes, she did. Okay, Ariel, thanks very much.
Okay, pause it right there. We're going to go to clip 2 in just a second, Shakita from the Black News Channel. Okay, let's jump into this because we're coming up on the break. Now, right before the break, now this is something that very few people talk about. And we deal with this in the online history classes that I teach, and I'm a historian. How the Nazis were inspired by Jim Crow to craft legal discrimination. The Third Reich studied the United States. This is from history.com, which is the official website of the History Channel. How the hell is it? How the hell is it that this does not come up when we talk about the Holocaust? Now, we talked about it here on the African History Network show during the International Day of Remembrance of the Holocaust. We dealt with this here on this show. If we look at, let me go to this. Hold on just a second here. Okay. In 1935, Nazi Germany passed 2 radically discriminatory pieces of legislation: the Reich Citizenship Law and the Protection of German Blood and German Honor. The Reich Citizenship Law and the Protection of German Blood and German Honor. Together, these were known as the Nuremberg Laws. Now, how many people are familiar with the Nuremberg Laws? Now, if you watch this show, especially on the 27th, we talked about the Nuremberg Laws. And the Nuremberg Laws laid the groundwork for the persecution of Jewish people during the Holocaust and World War II. Because the persecution started before World War II started. Hitler comes to power, German Chancellor, 1933. Now, when the Nazis set out to legally disenfranchise and discriminate against Jewish citizens, they weren't just coming up with ideas out of thin air. No. They looked to the land of the free and the home of the brave for some ideas. The Nazis closely studied the laws of another country. According to James Q. Whitman, author of Hitler's American Model, that country was the good old United States of America, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Okay, now, author Jason Q. Whitman said America in the early 20th century was the leading racist jurisdiction in the world. I think it still is, to tell you the truth. He's a professor at Yale Law School. He said, quote, Nazi lawyers, as a result, were interested in very closely. They were interested in and looked very closely at and were ultimately influenced by American race law. See, how is it that this does not come up when we have these conversations? Nazi lawyers, as a result, were interested in, looked very closely at, and were ultimately influenced by American race law, end quote. Now, in particular, Nazis admired the Jim Crow era laws that discriminated against African Americans and segregated them from white Americans, and they debated whether to introduce similar segregation in Germany. Yet they ultimately decided that it would not go far enough. However, they used some of what they learned from U.S. segregation laws for the Nuremberg Laws to discriminate against the Jews and persecute the Jews. Quote, one of the most striking Nazi views was that Jim Crow was a suitable racist program in the United States because American blacks were already oppressed and poor. Okay, one of the most striking Nazi views was that Jim Crow was a suitable racist program in the United States because American blacks were already oppressed and poor. But then in Germany, by contrast, where the Jews, as the Nazis imagined they were, now all of them were rich and powerful, but some of them were. As the Nazis imagined it, the Jews were rich and powerful. It was necessary to take more severe measures against the Jews from the Nazi perspective, Because of this, Nazis were more interested in how the U.S. had designated Native Americans, Filipinos, and other groups as non-citizens, even though they lived in the U.S. or its territories. We'll continue this on the other side of the break, this history lesson that you ain't going to get a whole lot of other places. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. Be sure to follow us here on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. Okay. And we broadcast here. We're here basically 6 days a week. I'm also a panelist on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Fridays. Some of you all see me there. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. If you like this type of information I share, you can register for the online history classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays, because we have class number 1 starting up this weekend for African American History Month. Saturday, it is class number 1 of Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Okay. We'll be back from break in 3 minutes. Stand by, 1 commercial break. This is a real radio station. They have us broadcasting from home because of COVID. Otherwise, I'd be at the radio station broadcasting. Stand by, back from break in 3 minutes. We're broadcasting here on 910 a.m. the Superstation WFDF. So I've just posted the information here. This is a 10-week online class I teach. We deal with thousands of years of history, what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. You can watch from around the world, and you still have access to the full class after the class is over with also. All right. As soon as you register, there's bonus content. You can start watching, and you get 15 bonus lectures from me in digital format also. Then Sundays, we have from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. Okay, stand by. I got to get ready for this next segment. So we have a bundle pack where you can register for both classes for only $120. That's a $260 value. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 a.m. the Superstation Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. If you have a quick question or comment, 313-778-7600. Those watching on Facebook and YouTube, share this broadcast on your social media platforms, tag your friends in it, invite them to tune in. It's this type of history lesson you're not going to get many other places. Okay, so right before the break, we were talking about this. We were talking about Whoopi Goldberg being suspended from The View for 2 weeks after apologizing on air on The View. She's suspended by the president of ABC News, Kim Godwin, and she was suspended for saying that the Jewish Holocaust was not about race. Okay, it was about man's inhumanity to man. Okay, so we're dealing with this history, breaking this down. And also, right before we get back to this, be sure to visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register for the online history classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. Class number 1 starts up Saturday, February 5th, 2022, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Kemet's one of the regional names of Egypt. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. So we deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. And then also I teach from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. And this class deals with, we start with the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, and we deal with history going up until 1968 to understand what happened after slavery ended, what happened during Reconstruction, during the Jim Crow era, et cetera. That's on Sundays starting February 6th, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we have a bundle pack here. You can register for both classes for only $120. The classes are normally $130 each. They're on sale $80, but we have a bundle pack. You can register for both classes for $120. And you still have access to the full class even after the course is over with. So a year from now, if you want to go back and watch the entire class, you can do that. Okay. So we'll give you some more information about the class before we get out of here. All right, I want to go back to this. We were talking about the Nuremberg Laws right before the break, because a lot of people don't know this history. So this is a piece from history.com that deals with how the Nuremberg Laws were inspired, the Nuremberg Laws that were used in Nazi Germany to discriminate against Jews. They were inspired by Jim Crow laws here in the U.S. and how the U.S. was treating African Americans and Native Americans and Filipinos, etc. So because so the Nazis were more interested in how the U.S. had designated Native Americans, Filipinos, and other groups as non-citizens, even though they lived in the U.S. or its territories. These models influenced citizenship. These models influenced the citizenship portion. The citizenship hold on, we lost connection with the radio station. Just a second here. Stand by. I'm calling into the station through Skype. It's been acting up. Stand by. Let me call them back. Okay, stand by.
Okay.
Yeah, Shakita, it's Michael again. Yeah, I dropped the call. Skype went out.
Okay.
All right.
All right,
All right.
please
Thanks.
hold.
All right. Thanks.
To fight the
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. We're back. We dropped the call there. Sorry about that. Skype went out on us. Okay. So we were talking about the Nuremberg Laws. We'll just cue that clip back up from the Black News Channel. We're going to go back to that, Shakita, in just a second here. Okay. So right before the break, we were talking about the Nuremberg Laws and how the Nazis were inspired by Jim Crow laws here in the U.S. to craft the Nuremberg Laws. Okay. The Nuremberg Laws were the laws that they used to target Jews, discriminate against Jews in Nazi Germany. So if we go back to this piece here from history.com, let's see here. In particular, Nazis admired Jim Crow era laws that discriminated against Black Americans and segregated them from white Americans. Okay. Now, these models influenced the citizenship portion of the Nuremberg Laws, which stripped German Jews of their citizenship. Hold on, let me scroll back down here just a second. These models influenced the citizenship portion of the Nuremberg Laws, which stripped German Jews of their citizenship and classified them as nationals. All right, now, but a component of the Jim Crow era that Nazis did think they could translate into Germany were anti-miscegenation laws, which prohibited interracial marriages in 30 of 40 states. Okay, prohibited African Americans from marrying white people. We know, was it not legal in all 50 states till 1967, the Loving case in 1967. America had, by a wide margin, the harshest law of this kind, Professor Whitman says. In particular, some of the state laws threatened severe criminal punishment for interracial marriage. That was something radical Nazis were very eager to do in Germany as well. The idea of banning Jewish and Aryan marriages presented the Nazis with a dilemma. How would they tell who was Jewish and who was not? How would they tell who was Jewish and who was not? Because, as Whoopi Goldberg said, this was like white people against white people. So how do you tell? After all, race and ethnic categories are socially constructed, and interracial relationships produce offspring who don't fall neatly into one box. Again, the Nazis looked to America. Quote, connected with these anti-miscegenation laws was a great deal of American jurisprudence on how to classify who belonged to which race, Controversial one-drop rules stipulated that anyone with any Black ancestry was legally Black and could not marry a white person. Laws also defined what made a person Asian or Native American. In order to prevent these groups from marrying whites. Notably, Virginia had a Pocahontas, quote unquote, Pocahontas exception for prominent white families who claimed to be descended from Pocahontas. The Nuremberg Laws, too, came up with a system determining who belonged to what group, allowing the Nazis to criminalize marriage and sex between Jewish and Aryan people, because the Nazis said that the Aryans were the superior race. They were a white race. They were a superior race. And the Nazis classified Jews not as a religious group, but as a inferior race. So you had the Aryan race that was the superior white race. They classified the Jews as an inferior race and also said that they weren't human. Sounds like the way African Americans were treated in this country. Now, rather than adopting a one-drop rule, the Nazis decreed that a Jewish person was anyone who had 3 or more Jewish grandparents, which means, as Professor Whitman notes, that American racial classification was much harsher than anything the Nazis themselves were willing to introduce in Germany. Even though the Nazis studied Jim Crow here and took and modeled the part of the Nuremberg laws from the miscegenation laws here, and they were inspired, the Nazis were inspired by the Jim Crow laws here in the US. It should come as no surprise then that Nazis weren't uniformly condemned in the US before the country entered the war, before the country entered World War II. And that wasn't until 1941 where Pearl Harbor was bombed. In the early 1930s, American eugenicists, eugenics means good genes, okay? And eugenics comes about around 1883. About 1883, eugenics is coined. In early 1930s, hold on just a second. In the early 1930s, American eugenicists welcomed Nazi ideas about racial purity and republished their propaganda. American aviator Charles Lindbergh accepted a swastika medal from the Nazi Party in 1938. Now we know the swastika is a corruption of the Gramadan, which is an African symbol. If you read Black Man of the Nile and his family by Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen, okay, you see the Gramadan in there. The Gramadan was an African symbol that was a spiritual symbol, and it consisted of the Gramadan consisted of 4 right angles. A right angle is 90 degrees. 90 times 4 is 360. It was a spiritual symbol and dealt with 360 degrees of knowledge. It became corrupted by the Nazis. And also Hitler studied North African philosophy. He studied Egypt. His title of Führer is also in German means pharaoh. Okay, so Nazis studied North African philosophy, as a lot of people do. I mean, you look at the Washington Monument here in the U.S. That's an African symbol called a Tekken, coming out of ancient Kemet, and we know that 50 of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence were in 1776 were Freemasons, including George Washington. Okay, so the foundation of Freemasonry is the knowledge coming out of ancient Kemet, the Nile Valley region of Africa, ancient Africa. All right, now, once the United States entered World War II in 1940, actually entered fighting after Pearl Harbor's bomb December 7th, 1941, it took a decidedly anti-Nazi stance. But Black Americans, African American troops noticed the similarities between 2 countries and confronted them head on with a double V campaign. Its goal, the African American World War II veterans, the World War II soldiers, people like Medgar Evers, okay, who was at D-Day in France, okay, June 1944. Victory abroad against the Axis powers and victory at home against Jim Crow. They had a double V campaign. They said we got to fight abroad and a fight at home. All right, so read this article here from history.com because very few people actually want to talk about this, how the Nazis were inspired by Jim Crow. Okay, now we're coming up on a break. When we come back, we're going to go to this clip here from the Black News Channel. They talked about it today. Misha Cross, who I know, and also Candace Kelly, legal analyst Candace Kelly. We've both been panelists on Roland Martin Unfiltered, Misha and Candace, myself. We're also going to deal with this here, learn more about Black history in Germany. Okay, so once again, how is it that the Afro-Germans who Hitler was killing get left out, and we don't have exact numbers? But check this out. We don't have exact numbers, but hold on, let's go back to this. Precisely how many Black Germans died in Nazi concentration camps, we don't know, but estimates put the figure between 25,000 and 50,000. How the hell is it that this never comes up? We're going to deal with all this on the other side of the break. You listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Okay, then we got this other article here from The Guardian. We got this one here from The Guardian. We also have an update on the threats against HBCUs. FBI has identified some persons of interest. All right, stand by. Then we've got this one here from we got this article here from The Guardian. I posted this article earlier today. Got some interesting comments. Black people were Hitler's victims too. That must not be forgotten. But if you don't understand your history, you don't know how to bring this into the conversation. I have no problem with talking about the Holocaust of the Jews. I have no problem dealing with that. But how the hell is it our history gets left out? So let's deal with all the history. Okay, YouTube's going crazy. What's wrong on YouTube? Okay, we're on commercial break. This is a real radio show. I'm on 910 AM, the superstation WFDF. That's the radio station I'm on because they the only ones had enough sense here in Detroit to put me on the air, on the radio, because nobody else would. I don't know what the hell that's about, but anyway, I can back up what I say. So it is what it is. The radio station is Jewish owned, but when Radio 1 on the station here, you know, I was on Angelo Henderson's show and Cliff Russell's show, but they never offered me a show. I pursued it, but they ain't never offered me a show. So shit, I mean, it is what it is. So we're on Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to midnight Eastern Standard Time, and Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. And I do Roland Martin's show, his daily digital show every Friday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Stand by. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. These online classes that I teach are going to blow you away. You've never seen anything like this before, most likely. You can advertise with the African History Network. Our current promotion, buy 1 month, get 2 months free. You get 3 months. Buy 1 month, get 2 months free. African American business owners, post the name of your business here in the thread of the broadcast. Okay, I'm on the email us right away. We get you start advertising tomorrow or what have you. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the superstation, the future radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022. What a way to start out African American History Month. We have an update coming up also on the HBCU bomb threats as well. FBI has identified 6 juveniles that are persons of interest. We're going to talk about that here in a few minutes. Be sure to register for the online history classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. And this helps support the African History Network and helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, pay the bills as well. I have expenses that I incur teaching these classes also because I'm on 2 digital platforms that I teach these classes on. I got to pay them each month, but this helps support us. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. This is class number 1. This is a 10-week online class that I teach, and we have some guest speakers in the class, and we have video clips and articles. I have a PowerPoint presentation, over 100 slides. They have book references, everything. This class number 1, starts up February 5th, 2022, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a 10-week online class. We deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. We deal with the 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors. We deal with the African presence in the Americas going back tens of thousands of years ago, like the Khoisan, who were here in land we call the United States of America, going back at least 51,700 years ago. And we go through history chronologically, okay? This is a class that I have been teaching on and off since 2017. And if you've taken this class in the past, email me. We're going to give you a 50% discount on it also, okay? And then we have a bundle pack that you can register for both classes for $120. Because the second class I teach is from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. That starts up Sunday, February 6th. Class number 1, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This second class picks up where the first class leaves off. And we go in and each class analyze about a 10 to 15 year period of time to get really deep into this history. All right. So visit AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We'll post a link here on the thread of the broadcast for the information you can register for this, and you can use this information with your children as well. I would say the content is PG-13. Okay. So let's get back to this. And we're only here for an hour on 910 AM Superstation. Those watching on Facebook and YouTube, I can tell you right now, we're going past an hour. We may do 2 hours tonight. Okay. Because I've been mad all day. So that's just all there is to it. We talked about the Nuremberg Laws. I want to get into, we're going to get to next, we're going to talk about this piece here from the Guardian.com. Black people were Hitler's victims too. That must not be forgotten. And then also we're going to look at we're going to clip 2 from the Black News Channel here, Shakita, so cue that up. Also, we're going to look at the U.S. Holocaust Museum. The U.S. Holocaust Museum has some good information because I look at numerous sources. I look at their sources also. The U.S. Holocaust Museum, they have a page on there, Afro-Germans during the Holocaust as well. They talk about the Afro-Germans there. But when we have these conversations in mainstream media, somehow people all of a sudden have amnesia. I want to go to this clip here from the Black News Channel. They talked about this today on the morning show on the Black News Channel. Let's go to clip 2, Shakita. All right, from the Black News Channel.
First place on the view, it was a conversation.
Okay, just back up. Start it from the beginning, please. Start it from the beginning.
Whether or not.
Here, Whoopi, right? That was on Monday, or comments. They have her in hot water this morning. She's now been suspended for 2 weeks. Whoopi Goldberg facing wide criticism, immediate criticism too, after saying the Holocaust was not about race. And so that's where we'll tee it up. Joining us now to talk about it here on Sharon's Table, my ladies, Brittany Cooper, Misha Cross, and Candace Kelly. So ladies, Kim Godwin, the president of ABC News, suspended Whoopi. It happened late last night. This despite the apology online. She released something Whoopi Goldberg did that same day, Monday afternoon or evening, I believe, on Twitter. And then she said more on The View yesterday. I want to start with you, Brittany, about the punishment, because what I've read is that this was consulted at the highest level of ABC and the corporation, above Kim Godwin. Is this justified? Too harsh? Give us the context.
Look, I think that what Whoopi needed was a more sophisticated analysis. The Holocaust was absolutely awful, and certainly given the rise of Nazism and white supremacy in our own context, it really behooves us to talk about race in proper ways. Now, I give a bit of side eye because to me, this was a lack of analysis. This wasn't an attempt to reduce the horrors that Jewish people went through. It wasn't an attempt to misunderstand. It is about the ways that race gets framed in the U.S. context as really being an issue of blackness versus whiteness. And because of many of the people that many of us know are white Jewish people, sometimes I think folks struggle to understand the way in which Jewish identity is racialized in the context of the Holocaust. That's not the same thing as saying what happened to you didn't happen, what happened to you was not egregious, terrible, generation defining in terms of the levels of trauma. I didn't read Whoopi to be saying that. And I do think that folks always have a problem when Black folks don't get the analysis of race right. And it's so interesting to me when corporations have such clarity about the punishments that Black people need around missteps in these conversations that don't seem to apply across the board. So I give the side eye to it, but I also understand that I'm not in this instance part of the aggrieved or offended group. And so if this suspension does help Whoopi to get a better analysis, then I'm all for it.
Okay, well, you just pause right there. We're out of time here on 910 AM Superstation. Now, Brittany Cooper, Professor Brittany Cooper, she was correct up until the point where she said that she's all for Whoopi Goldberg being suspended. Whoopi does not need to be suspended. Okay, number one, Americans are very ignorant of history. Americans need a massive history lesson. But Whoopi, one, apologized the next day on The View. Two, she didn't mean anything malice or malicious about it, anything like that. Okay, so yes, they had Jason Greenblatt on from the ADL to talk about some of the history, and America needs a massive history lesson. But they were wrong for suspended Kim Godwin was wrong for suspending Whoopi Goldberg. I think she may get some backlash from this. And then also this piece right here from where is that? This piece from Shadow and Act. The View fans call out double standard in Whoopi Goldberg suspension. Read this here from Shadow and Act. We're going to talk about this. Those watching on Facebook and YouTube, keep watching. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Register for our online classes. Right now, it's correct your own behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace. Stand by. Okay, stand by, everybody. This piece here from Shadow and Act. We're going to keep going. We're off the air on 910 AM Super Team WFDF. We're going to keep going here because I control this. The View fans call out double standard in Whoopi Goldberg's suspension after years of controversial remarks from Meghan McCain, conservative pundits. Okay. See, now you just opened up a can of whoop ass, Kim Godwin, because when Meghan McCain was on The View saying stupid sugar honey iced tea making you money, it was all right. But now Whoopi Goldberg made some mistakes. She didn't mean any malice by it. She wasn't trying to harm anybody. She comes back and apologizes because Americans are very ignorant of history. In the piece I played from Good Morning America, they talked about a study that shows how there's a declining knowledge in the U.S. of the Holocaust, World War II, period. I mean, we dealt with the piece from January 19th, 2021 from CBS This Morning that deals with how this piece here, CBS This Morning, it deals with how many Americans don't know what's in the U.S. Constitution. This piece here from CBS News, you can watch this, and there's a video clip in here also that you can watch. Listen right here. I hope it pulls up the full story. Okay, hold on. I want to go to the full article. Most Americans don't know what's in the U.S. Constitution. And then also, you had a study from about 2018 where two-thirds of Americans could not name the three, two-thirds of Americans could not name the three branches of the federal government: judicial, legislative, and executive. Okay, this one right here. Let's see, let's close that out. Close that. Okay, this is the one I want to show you here. Okay, most kill me. Most Americans don't know what's in the Constitution, a crisis of civic education. The Constitution was written by white men for white men, largely. January 19th, 2021. We've talked about this here on this show because we deal with real substance on this show. And this was the day before Joe Biden and Kamala Harris took the oath of office. It was 13 days after attempted insurrection incited by Benedict Donald, the traitor-in-chief. Okay, so they talk about inauguration, and they deal with how many Americans don't know what's in the U.S. Constitution, the 7,500-word blueprint for America, establishing our national government, basic rights, and a process for addressing our problems, at least in theory. The Constitution provides many answers, many questions and answers. It comes out of a historical context. Most people don't understand the history leading up to the Constitution. So read this and watch the video in here. It's very, very informative. Okay. So Americans are very ignorant of history. This is not something to treat Whoopi Goldberg like a child for. Because there's a lot of white people that don't understand history and don't understand the Constitution, don't understand World War II, don't understand the Jewish Holocaust, things like this. The View fans call out double standard in Whoopi Goldberg's suspension after years of controversial remarks from Meghan McCain. I don't think Meghan McCain was ever suspended. All that dumbass nonsense she said on The View. This is by Monique Jones. Give it up for Monique for shadowing that. Fans of The View are considering boycotting the series after it was announced that Whoopi Goldberg would be suspended for 2 weeks after comments she made regarding the Holocaust. Now, I don't watch The View. I see clips here and there I may read an article here and there about it because I monitor about 35 different news sources on a daily basis. If it's something big, I may see something on MSNBC about The View. I don't watch The View, but I definitely ain't watching it now. On Monday's episode, Goldberg said she felt the Holocaust was not about race while acknowledging that the horrific incident showcased man's inhumanity to man. Her fellow co-host tried to educate her on the scope of the Holocaust effects on racial minorities to no avail. However, late that night, Whoopi Goldberg issued an apology for her words. And then we know the next day on The View, on Tuesday, she issued an apology as well. Okay. We know Jonathan Greenblatt of the Anti-Defamation League shared the Holocaust was about Nazis' systemic annihilation of the Jewish people, who they deemed to be an inferior race. That's true. The Nazis viewed the Aryans as a superior race, pure white people, superior race, and they viewed the Jews as an inferior race. So it was about race, but it's a different racial dynamic than we think of here in the U.S. And when she was on Stephen Colbert's show, she was talking about understanding race from white people oppressing African Americans, which is a good place to start, by the way. The quote, the Jewish people around the world have always had my support, and that will never waver. I'm sorry for the hurt I caused, Whoopi Goldberg said. Okay, you can read the rest of this here. She doubled down on her comments as a guest on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, once again saying that Nazis had issues with ethnicity, not race. The Nazis, see, race is a man-made concept, and the Nazis and when we go to the Holocaust memorial, the Holocaust Encyclopedia, I have some information on that. She also said, again, the Holocaust was about white on white. Most of the Nazis were white people, and most of the people they were attacking were white people, she said, according to Showbiz Cheat Sheet. So to me, I'm thinking, how can you say it's about race if you're fighting each other? This wasn't, I said, this is why she said it wasn't racial. That was about white on white. She said, you can't call this racism. This was evil. This wasn't based on the skin. You couldn't tell who was Jewish. They had to delve deeply to figure it out. No, they created the Nuremberg Laws to discriminate against the Jews and identify against the Jews and measure the width of their nose and different things like this. They created the Nuremberg Laws by studying segregation here in the good old US of A. Okay, now let's get past this. Tuesday, Goldberg, Greenblatt did. Okay. Okay, Jonathan Greenblatt said, deeply appreciate Whoopi Goldberg inviting me onto The View today to have an important discussion on the importance of educating about the Holocaust. Whoopi has been a longtime ally of the Jewish community and ADL, and her apology is much welcome. Let's see here. No staff. Okay, they're talking about the suspension. They have the full letter there. Many fans have taken to Twitter to unleash their anger over Whoopi Goldberg's suspension. Lawyer Ernest Owens wrote, Meghan McCain got dozens of teachable moments on The View for her racism without penalty. Meghan McCain got dozens of teachable moments on The View for her racism without penalty. Whoopi Goldberg got punished the same day she apologized and educated herself on national TV. Don't tell me anything about affirmative action and reverse racism. This quote, hashtag Black History Month. This is a hell of a way to start out African American History Month, Black History Month. Bomb threats on HBCUs and Whoopi Goldberg getting suspended from The View. I mean, this is a hell of a way to start out African American History Month. Okay, this is Ernest Owens. I agree with Ernest. Miss Daisy said, I guess she's on Twitter. Whoopi's apology was heartfelt and sincere. Her suspension was ridiculous, especially in light of the fact it's Black History Month and considering how much they let Meghan McCain get away with. I'm done with The View, and I truly hope Whoopi is too. She should cancel them. Now, Whoopi's worth about $60 million, according to the article I saw today, not counting her money, but she could walk away from The View, and she could do a Della Reese. Remember Della Reese from Harlem Nights, Kiss My Entire Ass? She could do that. she could tell him, you can have a rear view, okay? And she could do a Della Reese. Now, another person on social media wrote that Whoopi Goldberg should resign from The View because of their belief that ABC has a double standard. Okay, so read the rest of this here. All right. Another person wrote, Whoopi's apology was heartfelt and sincere. Her suspension was ridiculous. Okay, so okay. Okay, I think it scrolled back up. Interestingly enough, Whoopi Goldberg's co-stars also disagree with ABC's decision to suspend her, according to the Daily Beast. That's the article that I just showed you from the Daily Beast. Anna Navarro said to the Daily Beast, I love Whoopi Goldberg. I love The View. This was an incredibly unfortunate incident. Whoopi is a lifelong ally to the Jewish community. She is not an anti-Semite, period. I am sad. I said, how about if all y'all just don't show up to work tomorrow? See what happens. See what type of view they have then. Okay. they should just all call in sick tomorrow. Okay. And see what type of view you have then. All right. Now, how's everybody doing? Okay. Follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. Turn on live notifications so you know when we go live. Also, follow us on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. Turn on live notifications there so you know when we go live. You can follow us on Instagram as well at Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. All right, I want to look at this this next article here. So this is from let's look at this one briefly here. This is from theguardian.com. I posted this earlier today, and a lot of people were commenting on it. We got hundreds of likes on this one. Black people were Hitler's victims too. That must not be forgotten. The problem is a lot of people don't know it, so you can't forget what you don't know. They just don't know. It doesn't come up. This is why America must have a massive history lesson. And if we're ever going to get reparations, repairing the damage of a legacy of 246 years of different types of slavery and decades of Jim Crow segregation and redlining and racism, things like this, America must have a massive history lesson. Because there was a study, and we talked about it here on this show. There was a study from 2018, April 4th, 2018, 50th anniversary of the assassination of Dr. King. 40% of white Americans surveyed thought that African Americans could be equally as successful if they just tried harder. 40% of white people surveyed. Newsweek.com has this article. 40% of white people surveyed thought that African Americans could be equally as successful as white people if they just tried harder, which means they really don't understand the history of racism, things like this. And you know what? I'm gonna try to pull this up from Instagram. I saw this is hilarious. Oh, this calls me. I saw what's her name? Jane. What's the did I save that? Oh, I sure hope I saved it. I meant to save it. Jane Elliott, I think is her name. I'm going to my saved. I saw something on Instagram. It was a clip of Jane Elliott, the anti-racist lecturer and scholar, white woman. And I saw it today, and this sums a whole lot of stuff up. Okay, I'm not that great with Instagram. Let me see, how the hell, I think I saved it, archive. So I got to look and see how the hell I go into the save stuff. I'm more of a Facebook man myself. Saved is, okay, we didn't save it. Let me see if I can find this right quick. So Jane Elliott was asking the question. She was speaking to a group of white people. And I think, oh, you know what? I think it was Chuck D's. I think it was Chuck D's Instagram page I was on. It was one of these hip hop artists that I follow. Old school hip hop. Ain't no Lil Wayne stuff, but hold on, let me see if I can find this. So she asked them, how many of you would, oh yeah, here it is right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to post this on my Instagram page, and I'm going to repost this on my Instagram page and show it to you, because I use repost. I have learned how to use repost in Instagram. Okay, link detected. All right, now this clip right here from Jane Elliott really sums all this stuff up. So, because you have a lot of white people, they may not know all the history and can't give you all the dates and all that stuff, but they know they wouldn't want to trade places with African Americans. They know that. Okay, it's loading up right now. We'll come to that in just a second. So let's look at this quickly here, and I'm gonna show you this clip. Okay, if you you don't want to be standing up watching this clip. Let me just tell you this, because you're gonna fall out laughing. All right. It's loading up now. All right. Okay, here we go. Let's go to this clip here. Let's see. Because it just loaded. So you'll be the first to see it on my Instagram page. Let's go to this. Let's take the sound off.
Be happy to receive the same treatment that our black citizens do in this society. Please stand.
I'll go back.
Citizens do in this society, please stand. You didn't understand the directions. If you white folks want to be treated the way blacks are in this society, stand. Nobody's standing here. That says very plainly that you know what's happening. You know you don't want it for you. I want to know why you're so willing to accept it or to allow it to happen for others. If you, as a white person, would be happy to receive the same treatment that our black citizens do in this society, please stand. You didn't understand the directions. If you white folks want to be treated the way blacks are in this society, stand. Nobody's standing here. That says very plainly that you know what's happening. You know you don't want it for you. I want to know why you're so willing to accept it or to allow it to happen for others. If you...
All right. They should play that on The View tomorrow. Okay, they should play that on The View tomorrow. All right, they need to play that like they should play that on Fox News. That makes you know, when I do my Black History Month presentation, I'm gonna play that at the beginning of every Black History Month presentation. If I did a virtual presentation for Davis and Elkins College in West Virginia on Dr. King Day. If I had that clip, if I knew about that clip on Dr. King, I would have played that because it was a mainly white audience. I would have played that for them. And it was virtual, so they couldn't beat me up or nothing. I mean, they wouldn't do that, but it was virtual. So I was here in Detroit. I should have played that. The audience was good. It was receptive. It's a lot of white college students, things like that. It was receptive, but I should have played that right there. All right. Many people, even those with no more than a passing interest in sport, have heard of Jesse Owens. Okay, remember Dorian Hayward, the Jesse Owens movie years ago. I think it was the 80s, something like that, about Jesse Owens, right? 1936 Olympics. The American athlete who ruined Adolf Hitler's moment in the sun. Okay, and here's Jesse Owens here. USA, proud USA, came back to Jim Crow segregation, all this stuff. It was hard for him to find a job, things like this. He went and kicked the world's butt for America. The American athlete who ruined Adolf Hitler's moment in the sun. For there can be no question that Hitler saw the 1936 Olympic Games in Berlin as the idea platform from which to amplify Nazi propaganda and demonstrate his white supremacist ideology. But Jesse Owens, the grandchild of a slave, shattered that illusion. Jesse Owens became the first U.S. track and field athlete to win 4 gold medals at a single Olympiad. And he came back, and it's hard for him to find a job, decent job, all this stuff. I remember one time they had him racing against a horse when he came back to the U.S. For most of the watching world, his dominance in the 100-meter, 200-meter long jump, and 4x100 meter relay was a powerful repudiation of Hitler's myth of a superior race of humans, the Aryans. Okay, see, this gets into white racism versus white racism. This gets into white people oppressing other white people. Similar to how the English oppressed the Irish, because England colonized Ireland in about 12th century AD. So stung were the Nazis by Jesse Owens' exploits in their own backyard that their propagandist, Joseph Goebbels, would later write in his diary that, quote, white humanity should be ashamed of itself. White humanity should be ashamed of itself. By this, he meant that it had been a mistake to allow Black athletes to compete at the world's grandest sporting event. So let me get this straight. You want to beat the world and show dominance. So this is so you want to show dominance of the Aryan race and show the Aryan race is superior, but you don't want to compete against non-white people, and you don't want to compete against African Americans. You want to show your superiority, but you don't want to compete really against non-white people, but especially compete against African Americans. By this, he meant that it had been a mistake to allow Black athletes to compete at the world's grandest sporting event. Why? You afraid you're going to lose? So you want to win by asterisk. You want to have an asterisk down there. It's just like before African Americans could play in Major League Baseball, all the other people who were like world champions and all this and all the records, all that stuff, you have to have an asterisk. It's like, wait a second, you segregated African Americans out, and they were some of the best baseball players, if not the best. The Negro League players were the best baseball players. Some of the best baseball players, if not the best baseball players. So all those records you have before they let Jackie Robinson in the league and others, you got to have an asterisk there and say, wait a second, they were segregating. This is lopsided here. They were segregating against some of the best players, and they knew it. While anti-Semitism was at the core of the Nazis' ideology of hate, Black people, Roma and Sinti people, gay people, physically and mentally disabled people, among other groups, were also under severe persecution. Jesse Owens' spectacular achievements did little to change Nazi perceptions of African Americans. Policies directed against them, many of whom had come from Germany's colonies in Africa, were cruel and inhumane. Policies against these Afro-Germans or Black people in Germany were cruel and inhumane. Seen as subhuman, Black people were marginalized socially and economically. But even with the shadow of Nazism hanging over them like a dark cloud, many found expression in art and music. All the same, Nazis condemned the influence of Negro culture on German art and music, calling it, quote unquote, degenerate and racially alien. Degenerate and racially alien. Although no exact figures exist, it is known that a significant number of Black people were detained in concentration camps and forced labor camps during the Nazi reign, and that many were murdered. Well, if it's so known, why the hell aren't they talking about it? How is it that when we have these conversations about the Holocaust, and once again, I have no problem talking about that. People need to understand that history and understand World War II and Nazi Germany and how and Hitler was elected into office. He came to power in 1933 as German chancellor, and then they rewrote the Constitution of Germany. I have no problem dealing with that history. But how is it our history gets left out of that history? Nonetheless, there seems to be little interest in Hitler's black victims. Well, you only protect what you respect. See, you only protect what you respect. This is why on yesterday's show, we dealt with how this African American History Month is harder in schools in certain states where they've been passing these anti-critical race theory laws, because now teachers are afraid of what to teach in school and don't want to end up losing their jobs, things like this. We talked about this on yesterday's show. Axios.com had this big story. This was our lead story yesterday. This one right here. Go back and watch a Tuesday show, Tuesday, February 1st. First day of African American History Month. Hell of a way to start out. Bomb threats against HBCUs and these ignorant anti-critical race theory laws. And critical race theory is not even taught in K through 12. New rules are limiting how teachers can teach Black History Month. This is from Axios.com, February 1st, 2022. We went deep into this yesterday. How's everybody doing? If you like this broadcast, give us a thumbs up. Be sure to follow us here. We're here each night. We know we have some new people watching. I was able to send out an email blast because it's so busy right before the show. I need to send out email blasts because I pay Constant Contact $95 every month. You can sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet to 22828. You'll get the newsletter from us. We let you know about our shows, lectures I'm doing, classes, all that. Text the word Kemet, Kemet, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter for the African History Network, or visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. The information's there, okay? All right. Text the word Kemet to 22828. Read this article here from Axios.com. This was our lead story on yesterday's show. Now, let's go back to this here. Nonetheless, there seems to be little interest in Hitler's Black victims. Their plight is not talked about enough. This is partly because, unlike Jews, Roma and Sinti, Black people were not marked for destruction. Now, they were doing experiments on Afro-Germans, and they were killing some of them. It was estimates are somewhere between 25 to 50,000 Afro-Germans were killed. But they were denied their human rights, these Black people in Germany. They were denied their human rights, sterilized, persecuted, experimented upon, and murdered in death camps. This racist philosophy underpinned the decision to deny German citizenship to people of African descent, thus complicating their employment prospects and their ability to get by in society. Being born in Germany did not make things the slightest difference. Nazis' fear of racial pollution led to the traumatic breakup of many mixed-race families. Nazi fears of racial pollution led to the traumatic breakup of many mixed-race families. The derogatory term Rhineland bastard was used to describe children from interracial relationships between the white Germans and Afro-Germans, or Black people. They were viewed as symbols of racial disgrace, and many were forcibly sterilized to prevent, quote unquote, alien blood from being passed on. How the hell is this? How is it that this gets left out of the history? See, these are questions that we need to ask. And these are things that we really have to talk about during African American History Month. Now, this year's annual theme for African American History Month, and there's been an annual theme going back to 1928. This year's annual theme deals with Black health and wellness in all different aspects of Black wealth and health Black Wealth and Black Health and Wellness. And Asala, at asala.org, they have information there dealing with this. So Asala is the organization that Dr. Carter G. Woodson co-founded September 9th, 1915. Started out as Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, and is now Association for the Study of African American Life and History. Should be asala.org or asala.com, one of them. All right, it's not coming up. Hold on. All right, it's not coming, but it's Asala, Association for the Study of African American Life and History. So this is the governing body of African American History Month. There's been an annual theme going back to 1928. A lot of people don't know this. I do the presentations I do dealing with African American History Month are much different than what a lot of people are used to seeing. Black History Monthly. Let's see. Hold on. That's not what I want. Annual themes. Uh, 2020 theme right here. Black Health and Wellness. 2022 theme. Black Health and Wellness. That's the official theme for African American History Month this year. All right, now let's go back to this. And I'm going to go back to the clip from the Black News Channel because we were running out of time on 9:10 a.m. Superstation WFDF and did not get a chance to finish that clip. Okay, so we'll cue that up. All right, now they were viewed as symbols of racial disgrace, and many were forcibly sterilized. Many were forcibly sterilized to prevent alien blood from being passed on. Nazis were virulent racists. In 1935, after the enactment of the notorious Nuremberg racial laws, which designated Black people as a minority with alien blood, many left Germany. Now, have you heard this history about Nazi Germany and the persecution of Afro-Germans? Those who remained were isolated and suffered horrendous racial abuse. And while the exclusion of Black children from public schools became official policy in 1941, it is a matter of record that they had long suffered racist abuse in their classrooms. In reflecting upon the fate of Black people during the Nazi reign of terror, it is clear that any honest dialogue about racism must include Nazi treatment of Black people. It is clear that any honest dialogue about racism must include Nazi treatment about Black people. Black people's pain and suffering should not be reduced to a footnote in the history of Nazism. Say that again. See, this is what I'm talking about. Once again, I have no problem with dealing with the Nazi Germany, persecution of the Jews, things like that. I have no problem with that. But how is it you leave the history of Afro-Germans being persecuted? How is it that gets left out? That shouldn't be left out of the history. All right, I want to go back to this clip from the Black News Channel. Okay. Black women talk Whoopi Goldberg suspension following Holocaust remarks.
But Amisha, is it a double standard? I put it like this because I think we know it's a double standard, but unpack more for us. No, it's definitely a double standard, but by no means do I want to cape for Whoopi right now. What she said was ahistorical. It was hurtful. I would hope that Americans know that Jewish is both a race and a religion, and that it is not helpful to play fast and loose with comments about the Holocaust, especially less than 24 hours after Holocaust Remembrance Day. So I think that there was a lot going on there that was quite problematic. With that being said, yes, Whoopi is taking a hit that white counterparts on conservative networks and on conservative platforms that are spewing literal neo-Nazi type information are not receiving that same type of ire. But because she's outside of that space, it can be expected that she wouldn't. When we talk about the original big three, ABC, CBS, NBC, when there has been anti-Semitic or we've seen this. We know that the levels of attacks against those in the Jewish community and Jewish faith continue to increase. But we also know that by and large, this was something that was totally avoidable. I watched that episode live. Whoopi walked herself through this process, and I cringed while watching it.
Yeah, and she was so emphatic about it. But again, she's apologized. Whoopi Goldberg now suspended. And I should say that the head of the Anti-Defamation League said that the apology is accepted and was not necessarily in favor of this suspension, this length of it, but said they'll work together. But
all right. So hopefully they work together to include the persecution of Afro-Germans at the hands of Hitler and the Nazis also. Once again, no, Whoopi Goldberg should not have been suspended. It's a teachable moment. She apologized. America needs a massive history lesson. Americans are very ignorant of history. Americans are ignorant of the history of slavery as well. No, she should not have been suspended. Not at all. And they ain't suspend. I don't think they ever suspended dumbass Meghan McCain for comments she made on The View as well. So Black people's pain and suffering should not be reduced to a footnote in the history of racism. Their pain and suffering should not be marginalized because they were not also targeted for annihilation. Understanding the full extent of Nazi and anti-Black racism is important for anyone whose ancestors were targeted by the Nazi regime, just as it is for all communities in general in contemporary society. All right. Okay, so read this here. This is from theguardian.com. This came out January 27th, which was International Holocaust Remembrance Day. International Holocaust Remembrance Day. We talked about this here on January 27th. Black people were Hitler's victims too. That must not be forgotten. Farai Mungazi and Olivia Marks Wogman for The Guardian, theguardian.com. Okay. So check that piece out. How's everybody doing? Okay, we've got Tyler. Give us a thumbs up if you like this. Give us a heart or whatever it is on the social media platform you're watching on. Follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. I wonder if I don't know if we're going to talk about this on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday. I sure hope we do. I don't know the topics we're going to talk about on Friday, but I would love for this topic to come up. Now, I want to go to this here in just a second. Now, this is from the International Holocaust This was his Holocaust Encyclopedia, United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. Okay, we're going to go to this here in just a second. Because they go, it's a deep, it requires a deeper understanding of history in Nazi Germany to understand that like white on white racism. Okay. And as Whoopi Goldberg said, she's thinking of racism from the context of white people oppressing African Americans. Okay, because she said, as a black person here in America, see, that's the context she's coming from. Well, maybe if we hadn't been oppressed, maybe she didn't have to think that way. But anyway, so be sure to register for if you like this type of information, you like this type of history we share here on the African History Network and on our fan page and everything. I teach these online classes on Saturdays and Sundays. These are online classes: Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Class number 1 starts up February 5th, 2022. We deal with thousands of years of history, and we deal with what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. We deal with the African presence in the Americas going back tens of thousands of years. And one of the references is Dr. David Imhotep's book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. And he's a friend of mine also. I've interviewed him a number of times. And we deal with the 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors. So we deal with a ton of history. I do a PowerPoint presentation. We have book references, articles, video clips, all of that. There's 15 digital lectures that you get from me as a bonus for registering for this class. We definitely appreciate all those that support us, because this is a lot of work, and we don't do this for the money, but it sure as hell takes money to do this. So this helps us keep doing what we do. I'm going to post a link here. You can register. You can watch from around the world. You can use this with your children also. It's not vulgar. I don't do a lot of cursing, things like that. It's not crazy. It's very visual. I have PowerPoint presentation. We have book references, articles, video clips. The class is on sale $80, regularly $130. On sale $80, regularly $130. Then the second class I teach which is on Sundays, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Class number 1 starts up February 6th. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. Okay. We have a special bundle pack. You can register for both classes right now for only $120. There's bonus lectures you get with each class also. And that's a $260 value for only $120. If you've taken either one of these online classes before, email me at TheAHNShow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and we'll check the records. We'll give you a 50% off discount. Okay. If you've taken the classes before from me in the past. Email me at and I'm gonna check the record. I'm gonna check the records, okay? But email me, you wouldn't believe the type of stuff I get. I'm just saying. But anyway, email me and we'll take care of you, okay? AHNShow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right. I want to go to the Holocaust Museum here. And also, African American business owners, post the name of your business here in the thread of the broadcast, and email us as well. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Okay. Our current promotion: buy 1 month, get 2 months free. We have that information at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, as well. Right here. And all of my DVD lectures, the digital downloads at our website also. We have the Black History Month 15 DVD bundle pack that's on sale $100. It's 15 of my lectures. So there's a description there. We click here, order here. There's a description of the lectures. All right. I want to jump into this next piece here, because I look at multiple sources. This is from the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. They also have a section on here on Afro-Germans during the Holocaust that we're going to look at next. And I want to look at this piece from thought.com also. Nazi racism and overview. Nazi racism and overview. Racism fueled by Nazi ideology and policies. The Nazis viewed the world as being divided up into competing inferior and superior races. The Nazis viewed the world as being divided up into competing inferior and superior races, each struggling for survival and dominance. They believed that Jews were not a religious denomination, but a dangerous non-European race. They see, so if you don't have this understanding, and a lot of people don't understand this aspect of history, Americans are very ignorant of history for various reasons. So if you don't know this, you just think, oh, okay, well, it's just one white group oppressing another white group. No. The Nazis saw Jews as a separate, inferior race of people. Nazi racism will produce murder of an unprecedented scale. You could compare it to the Holocaust of Africa. Well, it was multiple nations over the course of 1441 to 1888 in Brazil, when slavery ends in Brazil, right about that, 1888. And the Portuguese are the first ones to get involved in the transatlantic slave trade in 1441. So you're dealing with a much longer period of history. And one can make the argument that the weapons of war were much more advanced in World War II than they were during the 1400s, 1500s, 1600s, 1700s. But you can't deny the African Holocaust as well, or the Ma'afa. The Ma'afa is a Kiswahili term which means the great disaster, which refers to our Holocaust, the transatlantic slave trade. So when you see that in the title of the class that I teach, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understand the transatlantic slave trade, that's what it's talking about, the Ma'afa. So racists believe that innate inherited characteristics biologically determine human behavior. In the early 20th century, such views on race were widely accepted in many parts of the world. In fact, race is not biologically based. It is a cultural classification of groups. So you have people like Dr. Johann Friedrich Blumenbach, who coins the term Caucasian in 1779. He was about 1779. He was the head of the history department at the University of Göttingen in Germany. You have people like Dr. Karl von Linnaeus. And they're going to, these are like some of the architects of the stratification of humanity into races. According to Nazi theories of race, Germans and other Europeans had perceived superior physical and mental traits. They considered European peoples to be Aryans. Now, one of my teachers, Professor Kaba Hiawatha Kamene, and if you follow me for a few years, you've seen some of the interviews I've done with him. Professor Kaba, he talks about how the Aryans, Hitler got the name, they got the name Aryans from Arius, who was the bishop of Hippo, and Arius was of African descent. Arius is a bishop who does not attend the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. And Arius is disputing the there's a dispute over the nature of there's a dispute over using the term Jesus at that time is problematic because the letter J didn't exist until 1630 AD. So when you look at the letter J, if you look at the word Jesus in the dictionary, it takes you back to Yeshua. And also, it's a deep story, but you're dealing with Serapis Christos as well, which is that's a whole nother presentation. Okay, but anyway, Arius is one of the dissenters, and he finds out that he's going to be killed, so he doesn't show up to the Council of Nicaea. All right. The Arians are named after Arius, Arius, Bishop Arius of Hippo. Okay, that's a whole nother conversation. But anyway, okay, so they considered European peoples to be Aryans, descended from the ancient Indo-Europeans who settled throughout the European continent, as well as Iran and India. Racial anti-Semitism is the prejudice against or hatred of Jews based on false scientific theories. This aspect of racism was always an integral part of Nazism. So it goes through, there's some good information here. It goes through and talks about all this. This is the doctrine of racism. Okay. The doctrine of racism asserts that blood determines national ethnic identity. Just keep in mind, racism, as we deal with here on this show, racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race, which comes out of the ideology of European white supremacy. Okay. And that's largely understanding racism from the historical context here in the US. It could be different in a different country. It depends. Within a racist framework, the value of a human being is not determined by his or her individuality, but instead by a membership in a so-called racial collective. All right, now, let's scroll down here. I'm going to go past this. Racism includes, okay, Nazis. I want to go down to page 2, past 1931. Not right here. Nazi racists viewed the mentally and physically ill as blemishes upon the genetic landscape of the so-called master race. And when they reproduced as a biological danger, Nazi racists viewed the mentally and physically ill as blemishes upon the genetic landscape of the so-called master race. And when they reproduced as a biological danger to the purity of the Aryan race. After careful planning and data collection during the last 6 months of 1939, German physicians began to murder disabled residents of institutions throughout Germany in an operation that they euphemistically called euthanasia. According to Nazi theories of race, Germans and other Northern Europeans were Aryans, a superior race. During World War II, Nazi physicians conducted bogus medical experiments seeking to identify physical evidence of Aryan superiority and non-Aryan inferiority. Despite killing countless non-Aryan prisoners in the course of these experiments, the Nazis could not find any evidence. For their theories of biological racial differences among human beings. Once in power, the Nazis implemented racial laws and policies that deprived Jews, Black people, people of African descent, Afro-Germans, and Roma, who were the gypsies, of their rights. Now, Professor Kabahayawantha Kamene talks about, in one of his old lectures, and he's talked about it on one of my shows before. He said, if you want to know who the gypsies are, put an E in front of the word gypsy, and what do you get? Get Egypt. If you want to know who the gypsies are, because the gypsies were always depicted as a darker skinned, people, and they told fortunes and read palms and did different things like this. During World War II, the Nazi leadership set about what they referenced to as ethnic house cleansing in the occupied eastern territories of Poland and the Soviet Union. This policy included the murder and annihilation of so-called enemy races, including the genocide of European Jews and the destruction of the leadership of the Slavic peoples. Nazi racism produced murder on an unprecedented scale. Okay, now let's flip over and look at what they say, because they have a section on here dealing with Afro-Germans too. And I just find it interesting that that gets left out of the conversation. Let me pull this up here. Let's go to, okay, let's go to this one next. Dealing with the Afro-Germans. All right. Now, this is at the same place. United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, encyclopedia.ushmm.org. Afro-Germans during the Holocaust. So you admit that there was some there. Because I can't tell by a lot of these conversations. The Nazi German regime did not have an organized program to eliminate African Germans. However, the regime discriminated against and persecuted them. Some Black people in Germany and German occupied territories were isolated. An unknown number were sterilized, incarcerated, or murdered. So you admit it. Because once again, International Remembrance Day of the Holocaust, January 27th, and the reason why it's on January 27th is because that's when Auschwitz, the death camp, the labor camp Auschwitz, that's when the Soviets liberated the prisoners of Auschwitz, January 27, 1945. That's why it's on the International Holocaust Remembrance Day is on January 27th. Okay. If you look at this piece here from history.com, Auschwitz is liberated. Talked about this January 27th. Can we get that piece up? Okay. Well, hold on. Where is that? $45. Okay. History.com. All right, I'll pull that up in just a second here. And that's part of this day in history. Okay, right here. Okay, January 27th, 1945. This day in history, history.com. Because I get emails from different news sources all day long. So the This Day in History comes in from the History Channel around 6 a.m. I get the email from them each morning dealing with this date in history. On January 27, 1945, Soviet troops enter Auschwitz, Poland, freeing the survivors of the network of concentration camps and finally revealing to the world the depth of the horrors perpetrated there. Auschwitz was really a group of camps designated 1, 2, and 3, Roman numerals. There were also 40 smaller satellite camps. Okay, so read the rest of this here. January 27, 1945, Auschwitz is liberated. So that's why the International Holocaust Remembrance Day is on January 27th. All right, now let's go back to this right here. Afro-Germans. Somehow this gets, I'm just amazed how this just gets left out of the conversation. And it's right here at the Holocaust Museum's website. So it's like, okay, so you know about this. All right, the Nazi German regime did not have an organized program to eliminate African Germans. However, the regime discriminated against and persecuted them. Some black people in Germany and German-occupied territories were isolated, and unknown numbers sterilized, incarcerated, or murdered. So they break down key facts, which are helpful. Nazi persecution of Afro-Germans occurred despite their relative small presence in Germany. The Nazis forcibly sterilized a group of Afro-German children, whom they derogatorily called Rhineland bastards, as we said in one of the previous articles. I think it was the one from The Guardian. Most of these children were the progeny of French colonial troops from Africa that were stationed in the Rhineland region after World War I. Now, black people fought against Nazi Germany in World War II as members of the Allied militaries. Some of them were held as prisoners of war. A lot of them were mistreated also as prisoners of war. So then it goes through and it talks about Afro-German children in the Rhineland. It talks about Nazi persecution of Afro-Germans. It talks about African Americans under the Nazis. Then it has a section, African Americans interned as American citizens. All this is here. So how is it this doesn't come up in these conversations? All this is here. Valletta Snow, jazz musician Valletta Snow. In the 1930s, famous Tennessee jazz musician Valletta Snow was known as Little Louie, okay, named after Louis Armstrong, because her talent with the trumpet rivaled the legendary Louis Armstrong. She performed around the world, but it was a tour of Europe that would haunt her for the rest of her life. While in German-occupied Denmark, Valletta Snow is said to have been arrested and imprisoned in Copenhagen. It is still unclear why she was arrested or what was done to her while she was held, but her release in May of 1942, but after her release in May of 1942, in a May 1942 prisoner exchange, Valletta Snow never recovered emotionally. She continued to perform in the United States, but never regained her former success. She died in 1956 at the age of 51. So let's just look at this briefly here. So Afro-German children in the Rhineland following World War I, the victorious Allies occupied the Rhineland in West Germany. The use of French colonial troops, some of whom were black, in these occupation forces heightened anti-black racism in Germany. racist propaganda against black soldiers falsely depicted them as rapists of German women and carriers of venereal and other diseases. Racist propaganda against black soldiers falsely depicted them as rapists of German women and carriers of venereal and other diseases. The German press derogatorily referred to the children of black soldiers and German women as the Rhineland bastards. The Nazis viewed Afro-Germans, children with one African parent and one German parent, Afro-Germans. The Nazis viewed Afro-Germans as a threat to the purity of the German race. In his 1925 autobiography, Mein Kampf, which means My Struggle, Adolf Hitler charged that the Jews had brought the Negroes into the Rhineland with the clear aim of ruining the hated white race by the necessarily resulting bastardization. Okay. Now, Nazi persecution of Afro-Germans. Once again, I want people to understand this isn't like this isn't Dr. John Henrik Clark or Dr. Leonard Jeffries or Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen saying this. This is at the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. This is their website. And they've got the information there dealing with the Afro-Germans. So the question that we have to ask is, well, if you notice, how is it that this gets left out of the conversation? If you notice, how is it the history of the Afro-Germans gets left out of the conversation? Okay, so let's continue. Nazi persecution of Afro-Germans. Once the Nazi regime came to power, Afro-Germans were marginalized in German society, isolated socially and economically, and not allowed to attend university. That sounds like segregation here in the U.S. Racial discrimination prohibits them from seeking most jobs. That sounds like here in the U.S. Because one of the things the 1964 Civil Rights Act did, it created the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the EEOC, as we talked about a few nights ago. And in the 1964 Civil Rights Act, that wasn't just about public accommodations. That also prohibited discrimination when it came to applying for jobs. The 1964 Civil Rights Act did multiple things. It wasn't about getting a cup of coffee at a white diner. It did multiple things. By the end of 1937, the Gestapo has secretly rounded up and forcibly sterilized many Afro-Germans. Some were subjected to medical experiments, others mysteriously disappeared. In addition to being persecuted for their race, Afro-Germans were persecuted for other reasons. For example, Hilarius Gilges was an Afro-German dancer and communist activist from Dusseldorf, Germany. Nazis murdered him on June 20 of 1933 for his politics as well as his race. Today, Hilarius Gilges Platz in Dusseldorf memorializes Gilges as a victim of Nazi terror. Now, we talked about we dealt with the International Holocaust Remembrance Day here on this show, January 27th, but we did it differently because we talked about this. Smithsonian Mag has this piece that came out in December, and it deals with two Afro-Germans that there's some bricks that were this right here. New memorial in Berlin honors the Holocaust overlooked Black victims. This one right here, we talked about this January 27th. SmithsonianMag.com, which is the official website of the Smithsonian Institute. This Olivia Gershon wrote this article. This is from December 3rd, 2021. New memorials in Berlin honor the Holocaust overlooked Black victims. 2 brass stumbling stones are among the first to memorialize the Afro-German people murdered by the Nazis. Martha Ndumbi and Ferdinand James Allen. These were 2 Afro-Germans, okay, that were memorialized in Berlin. So read this article here because I don't have time to go back into it. We talked about this January 27th. Okay, let's go back to this here. Right here, Afro-Germans, right here. Okay. African Americans under the Nazis, in the 1920s, before the Nazis came to power, some African Americans traveled to Weimar, Germany, where 1918 to 1933, where they could freely eat in restaurants, stay in hotels, go to. But then this is before Hitler does not come to power in 1933 in Germany. He becomes German chancellor. This is before he comes to power and the Nazis come to power. Okay, where they could freely eat in restaurants, stay in hotels, go to the theater, and perform at mainstream venues. After the Nazis came to power in 1933, Germany was no longer safe or appealing to African Americans. The Nazi German regime was explicitly racist, which included a wholesale rejection of African American culture, such as jazz music and swing music that were increasingly popular at the time. Okay, so read the rest of this here, because we're way over time, but this is an important topic. Okay, we're way over time. This is really a 1-hour show. Okay. Well, this is really 1-hour show. We've been going for 2 hours. So, all right. If you like this type of information, please support the African History Network. $ the AHN Show through Cash App. $ the AHN Show through Cash App. We're going to continue because there's one more article I want to get to dealing with Afro-Germans, and then we want to get to an update on HBCU bomb threats. So hopefully we'll be out of here in 10 minutes. We'll see. Okay. You can support the African History Network. $ the AHN Show through Cash App, and then also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show. Okay, and we have the information at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have the links and all that information. So when you scroll down the website, we have the link to PayPal. Now, once again, so people who may be new here may not know this. Okay, this is our official Cash App account, $ the AHN Show, SHOW. When you go to it, it says Michael, shows my picture there. I had to create this graphic because some people created fake African History Network Cash App accounts that are not us, and they've been stealing money from us. I found out because somebody sent a payment to me and say, "Hey, I sent it. Did you get it?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't get it." And I said, "Send me a screenshot of where you sent it to." And that's how I found out there's some fake African History Network Cash App accounts out there. So that's why I had to create this graphic to explain to people. And then we have the link here. You click right there so you can support us. And then also here's the link for PayPal as well. All right. And then all my DVD lectures, digital downloads, the classes I teach, all that's at our website. You can advertise with us as well. AHN Show at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Black-owned businesses, we take your 30-second and 60-second commercial, put it into the rebroadcast of these shows on our social media platforms. And it's also in the audio podcast of these shows. We're on 10 different audio podcast platforms: iHeartRadio, iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, Castbox, FM Player, TuneIn. We have 3 different advertising packages, so email us at AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And then our online classes are here. And then we also have this Michael Imhotep 15 DVD bundle pack as well, 15 of my lectures. And there's one in here where I deal with the origins of African American History Month. Okay. When you click right here, order here, it takes you to the next page and it goes through and shows you all the lectures that are in this bundle. These are all presentations that I've done. Okay. I have like about, I think 45 of my lectures on DVD, something like that. Okay. I have 3 of my presentations dealing with the film Black Panther. This one right here, Breaking the Chains, Why We Celebrate Black History Month, deals with the origins of Black History Month. Dr. Carter G. Woodson, Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, ASALH. We deal with, was John Hanson really black president? No, he wasn't. We go through, break all that stuff down. There were 2 John Hansons. I even wrote an article about it because I write articles as well. So this one here this is about a 3-hour presentation, gets deep into the history. We've got this one here, The Distortion of the Legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the Revolutionary, will not be televised on the television. So we deal with the Revolutionary Dr. King. This is a double lecture I did with my friend, Dr. David Imhotep, who wrote the book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. We did this lecture here in Detroit. This one here deals with the origins of the Star Spangled Banner, Francis Scott Key, 1814, during the War of 1812, and also the Pledge of Allegiance, written August 1892 by Francis Bellamy, who was a socialist Methodist minister. And then I tie all this to Colin Kaepernick's protest and deal with what Colin Kaepernick's protest was all about. Great African Women in History, The Mothers of Civilization. You can get the version. It's actually 4 hours. It's a 2 DVD set. I deal with some well-known and not so well-known African women in our history from all different time periods. Also, this one right here, a lot of people don't like the title or don't like the cover or the picture of Trump, but once they see the lecture, they realize, damn, I didn't know it was that deep. African American resistance in the era of Donald Trump, voter suppression, reparations, and how elections have consequences. If we knew this information, now this is stuff I was talking about on my show in 2016 leading up to the presidential election, because I was doing nationally syndicated radio. 2016, I was doing my show. I was guest hosting for Roland Martin on the Roland Martin Show, nationally syndicated radio. And this is stuff I was warning people about. If we knew this information in 2016, we would have stopped Trump. We would have found those 78,000 votes and 10,704 votes here in Michigan, because Trump won Michigan by 10,704 votes. He won by 0.2 of a percentage point. Then also this one here, Ancient Kemet, The Winter Solstice and the History of Christmas, that deals with a lot of pre-Christian origins of Christmas. And it deals with even the origins of Christmas after Christianity comes into existence. Okay, so these are some of the, you can buy these individually or in the bundle pack, $100. But these are some of the 15 lectures that are in the Michael Imhotep Black History Month bundle pack. Okay, so we'll post the link here. It's at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. But we'll post the link here as well. So we have those shipping out this week also. Okay, and that'll keep you busy, I'm telling you. And my presentations are very well documented. I give you numerous sources for you to research. I tell you, you don't have to believe a word that I say. Proper documentation ends all conversation. So we'll post a link here for that also. If you want those lectures in digital download format, email me at AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And I think some of them in digital download format, but we'll set that up for you also. All right, now I want to go back to this rest of this here and finish this out. Because I was doing research all day today. And monitoring some of these different stories, these different news stories. This article right here from thought.com, thoughtco.com, I should say. Learn more about Black history in Germany. Afro-Deutsch date back to the 1700s. Learn more about Black history and Germany. Afro-Deutsch and Germany. Okay, Afro-Deutsch and Germany. Let me pull this back up here. All right. All right. Queen L said, when does the African descendant get reparations? When we learn how to start making legal arguments for reparations, because most of these arguments are not legal arguments. And we should be making legal arguments based upon Article 1, Section 9, Clause 1 of the U.S. Constitution, which is why the international transatlantic slave trade was outlawed March 2nd, 1807, when Congress passed the law and it went into effect January 1st, 1808, as stipulated in Article 1, Section 9, Clause 1 of the U.S. Constitution. In one of the biggest U.S. Supreme Court cases, the U.S. Supreme Court case of the Amistad slave ship of 1841, backs up your legal argument. This is why you should go to archives.gov. This is the type of information we deal with here on this show, because I've dealt with this numerous times here. Go to archives.gov and you look at Amistad slave ship. They have some of the original documents there from the U.S. Supreme Court case. We don't understand history and law, which goes back to the article from CBSnews.com from January 19th, 2021, how most Americans don't know what's in the U.S. Constitution, don't understand it. We don't understand history and don't understand law. This is U.S. National Archives. U.S. National Archives. Amistad case. Let's go back to this. Hold on. Okay. The Amistad case. Now, this is U.S. National Archives telling you this. February 1839, Portuguese slave hunters abducted a large group of Africans in Sierra Leone and shipped them to Havana, Cuba, a center for the slave trade. What's the next sentence? The abduction violated all the treaties in existence. Treaties are law. And treaties are international law. European nations entered into international treaties. The U.S. entered into it in 1808, Great Britain 1807, to abolish the international transatlantic slave trade. The international transatlantic slave trade dealt with Europeans going into Africa and selling and taking Africans into the colonies, okay, and selling them. Now, it was still legal in most of those countries. It was still legal to own slaves within the country and sell them within the country, just like here in the U.S. After January 1st, 1808, the international transatlantic slave trade was abolished. Now, it was still legal to own slaves in the territories that still had slavery. Vermont had abolished it by 1777. Massachusetts had abolished it by 1780. Okay. In 1787, when the Constitution is drafted and signed at the Philadelphia Convention, 5 states have already abolished slavery. They either abolished the international transatlantic slave trade or they abolished it altogether. Okay. A lot of people don't know this. This is why you have to study chronology of history. So the abduction violated all of the treaties then in existence. In 1839, 2 Spanish plantation owners, Pedro Montes and Jose Ruiz, purchased 53 Africans and put them aboard the Cuban schooner called the Amistad to ship them to a Caribbean plantation. It was illegal, based upon international treaties, for those Africans to be captured. On July 1st, 1839, the Africans seized the ship. It was a mutiny, killed the captain and the cook, and ordered Montes and Ruiz to sail to Africa. Okay. Now, when you go and click here, read more, and we got to get through this quickly. Read all this stuff here, because we don't understand history of law. So what happened was, the people left on the crew left on the ship ended up changing course at night and came into U.S. waters. When the Amistad ship came into U.S. waters, it was captured by the military ships. I can't remember if it was the Army and Navy or whatever. The military ships, because it was illegal for slave ships to come into U.S. waters because the international transatlantic slave trade was abolished January 1st, 1801. President Van Buren's president at the time. And this case goes all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Had it not been for the actions of abolitionists in the United States, the issues related to the Amistad might have ended quietly in an admiralty court, but it ends up going to the U.S. Supreme Court. So, long story short, U.S. Supreme Court rules that the Africans were illegally held as slaves. The district court, okay, so it went to district court, federal court, and then U.S. Supreme Court. John Quincy Adams, former sixth president of the United States, was their defense attorney, John Quincy Adams. So what the Supreme Court decided in favor of the Africans, Joseph Q, all them, people have seen the movie Amistad from around 1997, something like that, and they remember Joseph Q saying, "Give us free." But most people watching the movie don't understand what they're seeing and don't understand why those Africans were set free. The U.S. Supreme Court decided in favor of the Africans, stating that they were free individuals kidnapped and transported illegally. They had never been slaves. The reason why is because the international transatlantic slave trade was illegal in the U.S. Other European nations entered into the treaties, but it was illegal into the U.S. So it was illegal for that ship to come into the U.S. in the first place. So what that means, based upon law, federal law and international treaties, is that all the Africans that came into the U.S. from January 1st, 1808 through July of 1860, when the Clotilda came into Alabama, which is the last known slave ship, all that is illegal based upon federal law. All that, all those Africans that were brought in to the U.S. based upon U.S. Supreme Court has ruled on this. And this goes back to the U.S. Constitution. Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution tells you that the U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and all the treaties, all the previous treaties, and all the subsequent treaties are the supreme law of the land. U.S. Supreme Court ruled that it was illegal for those Africans to come into the U.S. waters because it violated the law passed by Congress March 2nd, 1807 that abolished the international transatlantic slave trade. So instead of us making legal arguments for reparations, and the U.S. Supreme Court has already ruled on this. This is archives.gov. This is the U.S. National Archives website. They have some of the original court documents here. Instead of us making legal arguments for reparations, some of us are making nonsensical arguments for reparations that are not based in law. Saying our ancestors worked for free for 246 years and didn't get paid. What law? Now, this may go outside the circumference of some people's awareness. Just because you disagree with it, don't like it, it does not mean, just because you disagree with it or don't like it doesn't mean it's not true. It just means you have to do some research to understand what I'm talking about. When you go to lawmakers, you don't go to argue morality. We know slavery was morally wrong. We know it was wrong to enslave them, capture them, rape them, sell them, work them for free. There were at least 262 skills, trades, and crafts that Africans had in this country from 1619 to 1865. We were skilled trades. And these are things I teach in my online classes. We know it's morally wrong. But when you go to lawmakers, like in the House of Representatives or U.S. Senate, lawmakers write laws. The foundational laws in this country are the U.S. Constitution. You don't go to lawmakers to argue morality. If you want to argue morality, you should go to church. The foundational laws in this country is the U.S. Constitution and treaties. When you challenge laws that are written in the legislative branch of government, you go to the judicial branch of government called the courts. And the courts, federal court, federal appeals court, U.S. Supreme Court, can strike down laws passed by the legislative branch of government or uphold laws passed by the legislative branch of government, and for that matter, from the executive branch of government in the form of executive orders. The judicial branch of the federal government can uphold or strike down laws based upon whether they are constitutional or unconstitutional, which means if it's constitutional, it means it falls in line within the U.S. Constitution. If it's unconstitutional, it means it violates the Constitution, which once again tells you that the Constitution is the foundation of laws in the country. The Constitution and the treaties. So instead of us making legal arguments for reparations, rooted in law, especially the Constitution, and also Black Freedmen Indian treaties of 1866. Those are treaties also. We make nonsensical arguments for reparations. Like our ancestors worked for free for 246 years. Let me ask you a question. Who's actually studied the history of slavery in this country? What law are you citing that slaves were supposed to be paid? Who's actually studied the history of slavery in this country? Yes, it was morally wrong. We know that. When you go to lawmakers, you don't go to argue morality, you go to argue law. Because when laws get challenged, they get challenged in the judicial branch of the federal government. So you can believe what you want. It's just like a lot of people want to throw these numbers out. Oh, you owe us $20 trillion. You owe us $30 trillion. You owe us $14 trillion. Okay. It ain't how much you think that you're owed that matters. What matters is how much you can actually collect. You can come up with whatever number you want to. What matters is how much you can collect. But we're not making legal arguments and actually understand the process, because it takes 218 votes to get a bill passed in the House of Representatives. Last time I checked HR 40, it had 190 co-sponsors. They were all Democrats. No Republicans support reparations in the House or the Senate. How the hell are you going to get that passed? I'm all for reparations. I'm all for repairing the damage of 246 years of slavery, decades of Jim Crow segregation, redlining, things like this. I'm all for repairing the damage. You first have to critically analyze the damage that was done. And to properly analyze, to properly repair the damage, you first have to understand who African people were and what African people had before they were put into that institution of slavery and stripped of our history, language, names, spiritual systems, culture, folklore, mores, all of that. See, that's a different conversation. If you start with African people already enslaved and largely stripped of a lot of that, you already come into the conversation way behind. The root concept of reparations is repairing the damage that was done of it could, whatever it is. Repairing the damage, making you whole again, restoring you to a state before the damage was done, making you whole again. Well, you first got to analyze who African people were and what we had before the damage was done to try to repair the damage. So cash payments can be part of a comprehensive reparations package, repairing the damage. You first have to systematically analyze the damage that was done and how pervasive it was. That's why the laws have to be changed. And the best thing to do is look at the conditions of African people here in this country now. Look at the racial disparities. Our houses are valued at $156 billion, less than comparable white homes. You look at the study from CBS News that with all the stuff we deal with here on this show, because a lot of that superfluous nonsense we don't deal with, who slept with who and all that stuff. I don't have time for that. That's not the type of research I do. If you look at this piece here from CBS, and I did a whole video on this. U.S. economy has lost $16 trillion U.S. economy lost $16 trillion in 20 years. Due to racism. This is from CBS News had this article, September 2020. I did a whole presentation on this, whole video on this. It's here on Facebook and YouTube. If we go through, look at this. See, I'm a researcher. My degree is in business administration with a major in marketing. I graduated in 1994 from Wayne State University. I started studying history in 1992. I've been studying history for 30 years. Actually, really started in 1990, but anyway. So I'm not just a historian, but my degree's in business. In business school, we're taught how to understand how systems work. We're taught how to analyze systems. We're taught how to lay out plans and strategies and execute them. And one of the things business school teaches you is how to solve problems. Racism has cost the U.S. $16 trillion. I also used to teach entrepreneurship as well, and did business consulting for 7 years. Managed a business consulting company. Okay, this is from September 23rd, 2020. This was a study by Citigroup Bank. America could have been $16 trillion richer if not for inequities in education, housing, wages, and business investment between Black and white Americans. Over the past 20 years, new research concludes. The study released this week in September 2020 by Citigroup Bank is the latest in a body of research that attempts to quantify the economic impact of systemic racism. So you're dealing with laws and policies. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, upon resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. Racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race that comes out of the ideology of European white supremacy for the purpose of preserving genetic white survival. Racism occurs when one race of people control the majority of the wealth, power, resources, benefits, privileges, land, access to education, access to opportunity, and they use that to marginalize, subordinate, and do harm to another race of people. Citigroup arrived at its $16 trillion figure after estimating Black workers lost $113 billion in potential wages over the past 2 decades because they could not get a college degree. So you do it. So when you study this, see, now you're dealing with the harm that laws and policies continue to do to African Americans. So part of repairing the damage is to analyze the laws and policies that have been put in place, how they continue to harm us, and changing the laws and policies. Just cash payments alone is not going to do it, because after we spend the money, guess what? Those laws and policies will still be in place that maldistributed wealth, power, and resources in the first place. So you're going to be right back where you started from. I mean, if you study spending habits of African Americans, it's pretty safe to assume if we got $1 million a day, white people have it all back by this time next week. And what you would have done is stimulated their economy, but the laws and policies are still in place, still harming you. So cash payments can be part of an overall comprehensive reparations package. And as Robin Ruth Simmons has said, and we interviewed her here on this show, Robin Ruth Simmons, who spearheaded the reparations effort in Illinois, there in Illinois, she said it's going to be a generation of reparations. Okay. In what was the name of that? It was Eastland, Illinois, or pull it up. Evanston, Illinois. Yeah, Evanston, Illinois. I interviewed her here on the show. Evanston, Illinois. And that the reparations program that they had dealt with redlining, and it dealt with housing. The reason why I dealt with redlining and housing is not slavery is because when you study the history of Evanston, Illinois, Evanston was founded in the 1840s, and slavery was abolished in Illinois in 1818. Evanston did not have a history of slavery, but they had a pervasive history of redlining. And I know because one, I did research before I interviewed, or two, I read a lot of the 70-page study that their reparations policy was based upon, because they did a study the previous year to study the history of Evanston, Illinois, and the pervasiveness of redlining. So the policy that they came up was based upon research. It wasn't based upon he said, she said. It was based upon research. Evanston did not have a history of slavery because Evanston, Illinois was founded in the 1840s, and slavery was abolished in the state of Illinois in 1818. So what the hell are they going to have a reparations program for slavery in the city that didn't even have slavery? And the city is a city of about 60,000 people, and 16% of the population was African-American. So they had a program based upon what happened within the city of Evanston, Illinois, and how the city and their policies harmed African-Americans in the city of Evanston, Illinois. The housing market lost $218 billion in sales because Black applicants couldn't get home loans. So 113 billion. So African-American workers have lost 113 billion in potential wages over the past 2 decades because they couldn't get a college degree. Then the housing market lost $218 billion in sales because African-American applicants could not get home loans, and about $13 trillion in business revenue never flowed into the economy because African-American entrepreneurs could not get bank loans. So what this study shows, and there are other studies similar to this, what this study shows is, yes, the brunt of racism is directed toward African-Americans, but it hurts everybody. Because the U.S. economy, they started telling you the U.S. economy lost $16 trillion in just 2 years from the year 2000 to 2020. They're not talking about 246 years. They're talking about just 20 years. But then it goes on to say this. The U.S. could have $5 trillion in GDP, gross domestic product, over the next 5 years if those gaps and others were closed today, which means you're dealing with changing these laws and policies that maldistribute wealth upon resources and harm African Americans. So what this shows is how, wait a second, when you change these policies, this helps everybody. Yes, it's going to disproportionately benefit African Americans, but this is when you do things that are good for African Americans, it's good for America. It's going to help everybody. When you lift us up, it's going to help everybody also. So read this, and they have a video here you can watch as well. Racism has cost the U.S. 16 trillion Citigroup fines. We'll post this link here. How's everybody doing? How y'all like this type of information? If this is your first time if it's your first time watching our show, seeing me, first time here, like, let us know. Just post here, just say first time, something like that. Okay, just say first time. Okay, I gotta get to this. Let me get to this last one because I need to go to bed at some point. We'll be back tomorrow. Let's see here. Learn more about Black history in Germany. Maybe we'll talk about this some more tomorrow because I just want to zoom in on something right here. It is on, let's see, it's right here. Right here. This is what I want to zoom in right here. The Nazis and the Black Holocaust. Nazis and the Black Holocaust. When Adolf Hitler came to power in 1932, it was actually 1933, 32-33. The racist policies of the Nazis impacted other groups besides Jews. The Nazis' racial purity laws also targeted gypsies, Roma, homosexuals, gay people, people with mental disabilities, and black people. Thank you for capitalizing the being black. I get so sick of people, lowercase b. But if you're gonna reference us by color, at least capitalize the B. Precisely how many black Germans died in Nazi concentration camps is unknown, but estimates put the figure at between 25,000 and 50,000. How did they get left out? The relatively low numbers of black people in Germany, their wide dispersal across the country, and the Nazis' focus on Jews were some factors that made it possible for many black Germans to survive the war. Unfortunately, all of them didn't survive. So read the rest of this here. I got one more story to get to. There's an update on the HBCUs because this is a story we talked about on Tuesday's show. So we got to give you an update on that. Learn more about Black history in Germany. Learn more about African people, period. Okay. Learn more about African people, period. That's from thoughtco.com. All right. Queen said, I appreciate your sacrifice, brother, to share much needed information you put out. All right. Thank you, Queen. Two things quickly. I'm gonna get to this update on, I think that's all I have on, all I'm going to get to right now, dealing with Whoopi Goldberg and Afro-Germans and the Holocaust and blacks in Germany. That's all. I have other information, but we'll talk about this some more tomorrow. That's about it. I want to get to this next story, this last story. Yeah, because we'll talk more about TheAHNShow tomorrow. Okay. Also, once again, if you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network. $, the AHN show through Cash App. $, the AHN show through Cash App. Then also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. We have the information here right on the homepage of our website, right here. And we have the link for Cash App, all that. This is our official Cash App account. $, the AHN show, SHOW. When you go to it, it says Michael, shows my picture here. These other ones are fake African History Network Cash App accounts. That is not us. I've been trying to get those shut down, but you can click right here. And then also we have for PayPal. And then you can register for the online classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. We have the class starting up. Class number 1 starts up Saturday, February 5th, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. From the ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. And it's a very visual class. I do a PowerPoint presentation. We have book references, articles, video clips, get 1 or 2 guest speakers as well. There's bonus content. As soon as you register, there's bonus content you can watch. You're going to get 15 bonus lectures in digital format of mine. The Black History Month 15 DVD bundle pack. You're going to get that from me. It's going to be in digital format. So you get this, click right here, register here. You can register for it. You can watch around the world. You can use this information with your children as well. I would say the information is PG-13. And then also the second class that I teach, this starts up Sunday, February 6, 2022, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. I just posted the link here on the thread of the broadcast as well. So you can register for it. And actually, this is the link here for we'll post the link right here. And we have the link here for the course bundle. So you can register for both classes for only $120. Okay. The regularly $130 each. They're on sale, $80 a piece, but we have a course bundle. You can register for both classes for only $120. Once you register for this class, you can watch it for as long as you want to. A year from now, if you want to go back and watch the entire 10-week class, you can. Okay. So it's not a situation where after the course is over with, you don't have access to the information yet. No, it's yours. You can have access to it. That's fine. Okay. Let's continue. All right, Gerald. Hey, Gerald, how you doing? All right. I want to go to this next piece dealing with the HBCU. So we kicked off African American History Month with Whoopi Goldberg apologizing for comments about the Holocaust, but then also for HBCUs getting bomb threats. Okay, HBCUs receive bomb threats as well. So on Tuesday's show, we reported to you that Tuesday, February 1st, more than 12 HBCU campuses target in new round of bomb threats. Okay, so that was Tuesday. Now, and let me change the title here. And it was actually about in total about 14 on Tuesday. Okay, so we have a update in this story. Now, nobody was hurt physically. Thank God, number one. But we have an update in this story. The FBI has identified six juveniles as persons of interest in bomb threats at Black colleges. And they said with some of these threats, racial language was used. And let's go to this. Let's change that title there. Just 1 second here, because I don't have my board operator. We're only on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF here in Detroit for 1 hour. So I don't have my board operator, Shakita or Jalen, after the first hour. So I had to do everything myself. All right, so here we go. All right. Okay, so FBI identifies six juveniles as persons of interest in bomb threats at Black colleges. The minors appear to be using sophisticated methods to disguise the source of the threats, which seem to have a racist motivation, a law enforcement official says. And a lot of people were saying, okay, so why is this happening on like the first day of African American History Month? Because some people thought, like right from the beginning, it was racially motivated because of the timing of it. All right. And there's a segment from MSNBC I want to go to here in just a second as well. Okay, yeah, let me cue this up here. Okay, so six tech-savvy juveniles have been identified as persons of interest by the FBI. Hold on. Six tech-savvy juveniles have been identified as persons of interest by the FBI in threats to HBCUs that appear to be racially motivated. More than a dozen HBCUs received bomb threats on Tuesday, January 1st, the first day of Black History Month. A law enforcement official says the FBI has identified six persons of interest around the country, all juveniles, who are suspected of making threats. The official says they appear to be tech savvy, using sophisticated methods to try to disguise the source of the threats, which appear to have a racist motivation, Let me go to this clip here. Let me try to cue this up.
What are we learning on this?
Well, a senior law enforcement official is telling us that the FBI has identified six persons of interest in this matter. They're all juveniles. They're all very tech savvy, and they've been disguising how they are making these calls more than 20 now over the past month or so to HBCUs across the country. And they appear to have a racist motive, this official is saying, which perhaps is obvious because a lot of these calls happened yesterday and the day before on the eve and at the start of Black History Month. Again, they're persons of interest. They're not suspects yet, so it's unclear how far the case against them or how if there's going to be an arrest anytime soon. This is still developing. But I can tell you from talking to a lot of students and administrators at these schools yesterday, they are going to be pleased to see that the FBI is making some progress. There's a lot of concern that they want to see the federal government step up and try to solve this problem. To some, it's been a distraction, but it's also a huge threat. Some see it as an act of domestic terrorism because these threats have only targeted HBCUs right at the start of Black History Month. Yasmin?
Ron Allen for us. Thank you, Ron, for bringing that to us.
Okay, so that was Yasmin Vasudian. I think she was sitting in for Craig Melvin today. That was Ron Allen reporting for MSNBC and NBC News. I think Yasmin was sitting in for, I think she's sitting in for Craig Melvin today. Here are some of the, is a map of colleges that were targeted. Let's pull this up here, pull this graphic up. All right, you have Morgan State, Coppin State, University of District of Columbia, Howard University, Spelman, Fort Valley State, Edward Waters University, Xavier University, Alcorn State University, Jackson State University, Tougaloo College, Mississippi Valley State University, and Kentucky State University. They've all received bomb threats. Actually, I think all those received bomb threats on Tuesday, because it was 14 colleges that received bomb threats on Tuesday. Alcorn State University was one of them also on Tuesday. Okay. All right, now let's go back to this article here quickly. So Howard University was among the first to issue a shelter-in-place order early Tuesday, just a day after the school and several other HBCUs received similar threats. A bomb threat against the university is being investigated, an alert from Howard University said, according to NBC Washington. All right. Okay, so check out the rest of that. FBI identifies 6 juveniles as persons of interest in bomb threats at Black colleges. Okay, so that's from NBC News. That is February 2nd, 2022. Now, also Washington Post has an article on this as well. FBI investigating HBCU bomb threats as a hate crime. Suspects, juveniles may be involved. Okay, the FBI is investigating a recent wave of bomb threats to HBCUs as a hate crime. Now, the standard for federal hate crimes is pretty high, but we'll see what type of evidence comes out. And they have identified as many as 6 people, all juveniles, who investigators suspect were involved. Officials familiar with the matter said no one has been publicly charged in connection with the threats, and the officials stressed that the investigation is still active. Because of what the callers making the threat said, and because of the institution targeted, the FBI is exploring. Hold on. Because of what the callers making the threat said, and because of the institution targeted, the FBI is exploring the threats as being motivated by racial or ethnic hatred one official said. The official spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe the ongoing investigation. FBI officials said in a statement on Wednesday, February 2nd, that the investigation, which was being led by its joint terrorism task forces and involved more than 20 field offices across the country, was, quote, one of the highest priority for the Bureau, end quote. Although at this time no explosive devices have been found at any of the locations, the FBI takes all threats with the utmost seriousness, and we are committed to thoroughly and aggressively investigating these threats, the Bureau said. Okay, read the rest of this article here because we're way over time. FBI investigating HBCU bomb threats as hate crime. Suspects, juveniles may be involved. Okay. All right. So check that out. Be sure to if you have any questions, be sure to email us at AHNShow at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AHNShow at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay. And if you want to register for any of our classes, if you want to advertise with the African History Network also, you have an African American owned business, we can definitely help you. Email us at AHNShow at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And if you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization, African American History Month, Black History Month, Women's History Month, Juneteenth, anything like that, in person or virtually, email us as well. And you can also visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have information there also. Okay. All right. Look, we're here Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to midnight Eastern Standard Time, and Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP, and also on Instagram, Michael Imhotep on Instagram as well. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. We have the information on the website also, so you can get our newsletter. We have to get out of here. Remember, the African History Network. Thanks for staying with us. Thanks for watching. Share this broadcast. Hopefully, you learned a lot. I do research, and you know, like I said before at the beginning of the show, I'm on the radio 5-6 days a week. I don't get paid to do radio. So when you support us, when you donate, when you register for our classes, buy our lectures, things like this helps keep us on the air. Because I do this full time. When you advertise with us, all that helps support us. I'll be back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday. I'm usually a panelist each Friday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Download the Black Star Media app. You can watch Roland Martin Unfiltered or on Facebook and YouTube. Follow Roland on Facebook and YouTube, Roland Martin on Facebook and YouTube. Download the Black Star Media app, which is his new media app. And he has new shows launching. So I told him he has 4 new shows launching. Dr. Greg Carr and Faraji Muhammad and Deborah Owens and his wife, Jackie Martin. I told him I want a show as well. So he said he has to get these first 4 launched because those shows, it costs money to launch those shows. I mean, there's camera people, there's producers, all that. It costs money to launch those shows. It's not a YouTube. It's not just somebody sitting in front of a webcam, you know. So he said he has to get those first 4 shows launched and see how that goes, and then we'll go from there. So we'll see. All right. We have to get out of here. Follow us on our social media platforms. Turn on live notifications so you know when we go live. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you learned a lot. You can read these articles, share this with your friends and family. And we appreciate the support. Lastly, when you do, I know you can, just so, because people don't know this, some people ask about supporting us through YouTube and donating through the YouTube. Okay, you can do that, but YouTube takes 1/3 of the payment and they only pay out once a month. Just so some people don't know this. Okay, so when you do it through Cash App or PayPal, we get a lot more of it and we get it immediately. Okay, so If you can only do it through YouTube, that's fine. But some people don't know that. So that's why I'm explaining it to you. All right. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace.